basically it's 706, so we have a deficit. See, we always operate in that. That's including
Right.
because that's the
Fun thing about it.
well, that's one time when I first got on city council. When I first got on city council, I talked about it. Lucy pulled up her snow. I said, "Oh, let's just be fair. I just didn't see so many people come.
Yeah.
But then
Let's see what we got. Billy, you ready? Gary, you good? At 7 o'clock, call to order here at the City Council meeting of the City of Rand's Pass, 600 West Cleveland Boulevard at 7 p.m. on June 6, 2016. Please rise for the invocation, please. Lord, we ask you to give us blessings upon the city as we come through some difficult times, but we also come through some great times. As that is, I mean, it's our kids that graduated this year, growing up to become our future leaders. We thank you for the guidance you've given them, you give us. We ask you, Lord, to please heal the sick. We ask you to watch over all and make sure life is good. And the ones that don't feel so good, we ask you to give you an extra healing hand on them. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This is going to bring us to item number 3, employee recognition of community enrichment and aquatic center staff. Thompson Baker, Ms. Cindy Ball.
I just have something for Thomas Baker and Cindy Ball. Started off the season pretty well. Cindy Ball. There's 2 of them. So we have 2 lifeguards that have just really showed a lot of promise. They've kind of gone above and beyond as far as their activities. So here's Thomas's right here. Thank you, Thomas Baker. And here's Cindy Ball. And they're very proud of them. Thank you. And what they're doing with the pool. And then I have to have a good card for them. Thank you for everything.
Thank you. This also brings us to item 3B, a presentation of our annual audit report ended September 24th, 2015 by Brenda McAwee. Brenda?
Thank you for having me. How are y'all this evening? So last year, I gave you all a short course in what an audit is, why you need one, who uses it, and all that. I'm going to skip it this year, so take a deep breath. No pop test. So I'm not going to go over that again. Basically, just jump right in. I've rendered a unmodified, which is a clean opinion, which means that these financial statements are materially correct in all aspects. If you took your city's financial statement and compared it to another city's financial statements, the format and all of that information should be fairly comparable. You could look at your city's situation and you could look at another situation, and it would be understandable to those who understand those things. Pages 10 through 19 of the report contain a discussion in plain English about the financial status of your city. Pages 20 through 79 are more technical in nature, and those pages are for those guys, okay? The bond guys and the people who invest in your city, that invest in the bonds that you guys sell. So if you're really interested in learning about your financial status, look at pages 10 through 19. It's going to tell you the ups and downs, the backs and forths between years and between funds. I'm not going to go over and just bury you with statistics because you wouldn't remember them anyway. Nobody really cares about that. They really just want to know generally, how is the city doing? The city underwent a change in a conversion of accounting software this past year. It proved to be much more challenging, not only to the finance department and all the other departments that have anything to do with financial issues, which is every department of your city, but also to yours truly. It was very, very challenging. But nonetheless, we overcame, and you finally have your report. I think in the future, the reports that you're going to get from your department heads are going to be much clearer, much more concise. I think our old system was much more lengthy and more cumbersome. So I like the new system. Donna's doing an excellent job. She understands the new system, and so I'm all for it now. I didn't like it at the beginning, but it's all right. So bottom line is your city's in good financial shape. We're moving forward. We're growing. I know you've got a lot of new debt, but we have a lot of new growth and a lot of new opportunities to get that debt repaid, and I think you guys are in good hands. And if you have any questions, I'll entertain them now, or if you would like to call me at my office, I'm always happy to answer your questions. I may not be able to answer them off the cuff right now, but I can certainly research them for you. So anyway, any questions?
Good shape, that's all that matters.
Huh?
We're in good shape.
You're in good
that's
shape.
all that matters.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Brenda.
This is going to bring us to item 5, our citizen comments. And right now, I open the floor to citizen comments. Other than the normal 3 minutes it's normally given, I think despite what has happened, everybody got a lot of things they want to say off their chest, so the floor is yours. We work for you, so it's time for you to let us have it. A good way or a bad way, so mic's open. Speak clearly into the mic. Yes, ma'am.
Hello. Good evening, Council. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi. My name is Kelsey Coker Durham. I'm actually here speaking on behalf of my dad, Robert Coker, on 454 South 12th Street. He's kind of shy. No, he's got a cold. Anyways, I'm here, and I don't know how this really works because I haven't been to a council meeting in about 40 years. So we were wondering what the process was to pass the ordinance as the golf carts are for the UTVs, as the mules, Kubotas. I don't know if you're familiar. There's a couple of other name brands, but we'd like to know the process to see if we can get that approved.
Put it on the agenda.
So, is that how that works?
I had the same question.
Ma'am.
I do. I like that.
But just put it on the agenda and we'll follow up.
Right now, we're looking at, with the golf carts, just standard insurance that we use, blinkers and seatbelts, right?
Well, if you guys so desire an ordinance to be placed, or for us to research and begin placing an ordinance, it's a directive that's required from you guys to staff to begin that particular process. We've had more than one person approach us about this particular item, so.
Can we have it ready by next meeting?
By next council meeting?
Yeah.
We can certainly try. At least the research anyway. I don't believe you're going to be ready to approve an ordinance
Right.
by the next council meeting, but at least the background on what other cities do and how you want our particular ordinance to read.
I think it's something we need to look at.
Hey, Kelsey, does some of those come like with blinkers and seat belts and stuff like that?
I believe so. I don't.
And they're gas powered?
I think they all do.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely seat belts. You would definitely. I think most of them are hand signals, unless
Okay.
you get the much bigger ones. Ours personally, I don't believe. No, it doesn't have any
Just standard lights.
standard light. I mean, just standard brake lights.
Because I think
Headlights.
like Ingleside PD has a couple carts we're going to be using for shrimpery,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what they are, but they have blinkers, seat belts, and they're registered through through Texas as a regular vehicle on the roadway.
Okay.
But I guess we could look at including the other ones that aren't capable of being registered in the ordinance.
And some are diesel powered, some are gas powered.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're right.
Correct.
Mhm. Well, great. I appreciate it.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Kelsey.
guys.
Appreciate it.
So for the next council meeting, we will prepare research and comparison to what other cities around us similar cities are doing.
10th floor. Yes, sir.
My name is Jerry Wellman. I live at 1869 South Saunders, and I was a regular at this podium more than 10 years ago, and I think the only one that may have been up there is Alan, and I'm still talking about the same issues, that if you live in a city, you should have a paved street. If you live in a city, you should have city water. If you live in a city, you should have city sewer. And we continue to have septic systems, and right now I'm sure, having lived in a number of those, that those septic systems are not working properly. And those people that are downstream from those septic systems, it's in your water in your yard. Because the other thing is, the city should have no water standing in a yard more than 24 hours after the last rain. And we have houses in this city that you must wear hip boots to get to today. And it's absolutely wrong. The second issue I want to talk about is, and there's some on the agenda tonight, is the city giving donations to organizations. Now, I'm sure these organizations are fine organizations, but it's our tax money, and some people may have not want to give to that organization, and you're just filtering the money. So please look at those donations. I don't think tax dollars should be going to an organization, because sooner or later you're going to give it to an organization that is going to get in trouble, and then you're going to be funding it. And that means I'm funding it.
Most of the organizations, if I'm wrong, correct me, it's 501Cs, correct, Sylvia?
Yes.
We'll try to do backgrounds on that.
The last item I want to talk about is the recent flood. That flood was ridiculous, it was wrong, and however it occurred, the city council needs to get to the bottom of it and get it corrected. Because we have not had a flood in that city since Hurricane Celia, and this was certainly not Celia or anything like that. And if we have that little 8 inches of rain and that kind of flood down in the low areas, it's going to be a real mess. And it's going to affect your house and my house. And so we need to get this drainage system fixed, and we need to get to the bottom how that flood occurred. Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening. I live at 1920 Sherwood Forest. My name is Barbara Klopshinsky, Klopshinske. And like everyone else, we're having a big problem with standing water in the ditches in our yards, and my neighbor being flooded because she's lower. And a year or two ago, the county came and dug the ditches out, which made them pretty steep. My husband, he cannot get the lawnmower down there to mow that grass. And the county, when they come by and mow, they can't get down there either. So all this grass is holding everything back, and I know from observation that the pipes under the driveways and so on, and the roads, they are probably plugged, or pretty much, because I've observed the water flow, and it gets to where the pipe is, and it goes over the driveway. So I think we need to address the grass problem and cleaning out the pipes. We clean the pipes out, we would have a lot less standing water. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, ma'am, for coming up here. Yes, sir.
Hi, I'm William McClellan, 308 West Wilson, and I'd like to call for a town hall meeting. Presentation by the city manager, update on harbor development. What happened with the Hal Jones contract? What did we learn? This is the second time the city has tried to turn to a single developer and has failed both times. Why does the city manager ignore Railroad Street? She does not have a plan and refuses to listen to people who own property on Railroad Street. She made a comment to one of the property owners that it could not be developed. Let's have a town hall meeting, Mr. Mayor. Let's hear her detailed plans, and for the harbor. Citizens' responses, including suggestions for improvements. Thank you.
Excuse me, sir, what was your name again? Lee McClellan. Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry, he got it, he got it. I was trying to get your name again.
Got it.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Roy Vasquez, 1003 West Rhodes Avenue. I have two comments, two separate comments. One's a positive one, and the other one's a neutral, possibly a negative one. First one was I want to thank the city as a whole, council members, city manager Eric, for donating some of those funds to Project Graduation. I just want to let you all know, I mean, it's been on social media, but it was an awesome success, and it couldn't have been done without the city's donation. So we all thank you as a whole for Project Graduation. All right. On the other topic, 6 weeks ago, 2 council meetings ago, there was a bid that came up to you all, and you know, most of these contract bids are pretty much no-brainers. You know, lowest bid, this guy's too high, go with the lowest bid. You know, we had one come through for the Harbor Lights, or was it the Harbor Lights?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the Harbor Lights. And hey, that's too expensive. All 3 of them are. Hey, let's throw it back. Let's see what we can get. Came back. We had some lower bids. Great. Saved us some money. But that's 6 weeks ago. We had the bid for the the community park project. And we had 2 council members didn't vote for the lowest bid. And that, I was concerned. Why wouldn't you? Mrs. Scruggs, Mr. Hyatt, you guys voted for the lowest bid. Mrs. Abrigo, Mr. Ellis voted for the higher one. I don't understand. All right. I spoke with the mayor afterwards after he voted no. You know, he voiced his concern to the residents. Understandable. I don't agree with him, but I understand where he came from. He voiced his reasoning of why he chose that. I would like to know why Mr. Ellis and Mrs. Abrigo did not vote for the lowest bid. All right? So I started thinking to myself, well, maybe they know something I don't. They've lived here longer. So I went ahead and did a little bit of research. I said, well, maybe, you know, the one contractor is better than the other. I don't know. So I said, well, you know, my wife's always big on finding out, you know, Better Business Bureau ratings and things of that nature. So I myself went on there and I looked for both contractors at the Better Business Bureau. And I found out that Lee's Construction has been registered with the Better Business Bureau for 3 years. Has had no complaints. Everything's been positive. He's rated A+. I went and researched RNA Construction. Couldn't find anything. So, once again, what is the reasoning why you would not choose the lowest bid? So anyways, 2 weeks later, there's another council meeting where Mr. Hyatt voted for the highest bid. And I heard Mrs. Scruggs here say, you know, why would you guys vote for the highest bid? And I heard Mr. Hyatt say, well, he's throwing in the landscaping. But that wasn't part of the bid. The landscaping was not part of the bid. That shouldn't even been mentioned. And keep it. I mean, there's more to it than that. Okay, throw the landscaping in. Who's going to water it? There's more to it than that. So how much in detail do you guys go into when you approve these bids? Don't questions arise? when you guys vote yes or no for some of these. And like I said, some of them are pretty much no-brainers. And all of you guys vote yay. I was just really surprised on how you all voted 6 weeks ago for those bids.
I think I was pretty consistent on mine.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who'd like to say anything? And if not, that will close our citizen comments. We'll be continuing on. This is going to bring us to item 6, the consent agenda. All of the following items of the consent agenda considered to be routine by the City Council will be enacted with one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member so requests. If the discussion is desired, that item will be removed from the consent agenda and will be considered separately. You have item 6A, ordinance 2016-4149, approving conditional use permit for Tammy Solis to operate a bar, lounge, or tavern at 1152 South Commercial, Rancho Pass, Texas, lots 32 through 35, Block 7, Frick's First Edition, Rancho Pass, Texas. Then you have item 6B, it's ordinance number 2016-4150, amending the ordinance number 1308, zoning ordinance by amending Part 4, Section 16 of the Board of Adjustment by amending the board's jurisdictions to allow for a special exception for a sign location and height, and to authorize the Director of Development Services a 10% administrative adjustment, providing for a repealer clause and an effective date. Then you have item 6C, which would be the approval of the regular minutes on May 2nd, 2016.
I make a motion, we approve the consent agenda.
I second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. This is going to bring us to item 7A, consider and act appointed signatories for the withdrawal of funds from the city depository.
Mayor and Council, this is a charter amendment that was approved by the voters on May the 7th. There was some discussion in the current municipal code as to who signs. I've stated time and time again, I should not be a signator, nor have I ever been a signator since I got here. There's a propensity for the city manager to direct the finance director to write a check, and that's not a good checks and balances. So what we asked was that council approve the signatories every few years. So this is your first item that's going to, allow you guys to appoint the signatories. We are requesting that it be the municipal court judge. That's an appointed position by the council. We are requesting it would be the city secretary, that is also an appointed position by council, and also the finance director, who's a member of staff.
On the judge and the secretary, what qualifies them to look at the books?
It doesn't qualify them to look at the books. It is a two signature, so one person can't just write a check without.
Don't you think if you sign your name to anything, what do you want to know what you're paying?
Absolutely, and so not that they're going to be finance gurus or finance backgrounds, but there should be the ability to question why a check's being written or if there's any issue. And again, those are positions that are appointed by the council.
I think in most cases you would have, if you're signing a check to pay a bill, it would have to be the invoice and things, material attached.
Correct.
to
We have some checks and balances in that regard. What was concerning to me and to staff was if the two signatures are myself and the finance director. There's no stopping, let's say, the finance director from being coerced or feeling like she must sign a check because I'm her boss and she needs to do that. So all of these positions, well, 2 of the 3 positions report to you. So there is no fear of reprisal or fear of being fired if they do raise the question or raise the issue.
Well, let's say there's a question or something that's comes under investigation.
Mm-hmm.
Aren't you bonded by the city to sign your name as an acting city manager? Don't you run the town?
I am bonded, yes, but so are these positions.
But don't you run the city's business? Why wouldn't you sign it?
No, you guys run the city's business. I am day-to-day operations. What the voters approved on May the 7th was alternate signatories other than me.
And this was all brought by the ad hoc committee?
Yes,
correct?
this was the committee's review, and this is what went to the voters.
What does other towns do besides courts?
It is 3 people appointed by the council. It is almost a requirement that you don't have the same person who approves the checks and signs the checks be the same person that's cutting the checks. So the finance director is cutting a check for things that have been approved through the day-to-day operations. The judge or the city secretary has the option to question or not sign. And they don't have to fear, well, the city manager is going to get mad at me because they don't answer to me, they answer to you.
My question is, I would like to have this table so we get some information from Portland, either side, somebody else, to see how they run theirs over there. This is the first time for us, correct?
Tabling would change who the positions are. It doesn't change what the election stated.
No, I understand that whatever the election is, it stands.
Mm-hmm. Donna, did you do research on who signed what?
No,
Okay.
I'm sorry, I didn't.
Okay. Okay.
I'm just curious, in case something, legal matters come out later, and let's say you're the main one, and somebody else signs after you, are you gonna be liable personally for something that you may have not realized?
We all have a fiduciary responsibility, including the council, for contracts that are signed that perhaps aren't read completely. We all have a fiduciary responsibility, both civilly and criminally liable.
How long does that last? Is it like a 10-year expiration?
I'd let the police chief and the FBI and the Rangers probably answer that, but we all have a fiduciary responsibility.
The reason I ask these questions is because I think I've been married for going on 3 years, and I still haven't seen a checkbook statement saying who we buy stuff from, what businesses we do business with, and how much we spend at certain businesses around here locally.
Actually, you get a financial statement, and you'll be presented a financial statement today. When you first took office, we did provide a check register that was boxes and boxes deep.
So you're saying I can't get a copy of it now, or have to?
You absolutely can. At any point to request it, you can get a copy of the check register, if that is your desire. I'm not sure what that has to do with today's item, but
I just figured one of the years that I've been married here, I would like to see these checkbooks.
not a problem.
Anyway, what's the pleasure of the council on this item 7A?
I make a motion we approve item 7A.
Second the motion.
Who are you going to appoint?
The recommendation of the city staff.
Municipal court judge, city secretary, and finance director.
I wonder how, is that a position that ought to be put into? Is that a position that?
Did you sign up for it? Were you aware you were going to be part of this or not, Donna?
Yes, I am.
So
I'm
this is-
currently one of the signers on the account.
Right.
Donna is. What about Henry?
What about Henry and?
The city secretary's always been a signer on the account as well. The municipal court judge has been ad hoc signer for the city for decades. This is just formalizing that practice.
You need to call for a vote to vote. There's a motion and a second.
Is there a second?
Yeah, Philip second.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Nay. Bring us to item 7B, consider an act and amended ordinances 2016-4146 to add an industrial district area 11, 12, 13, authorizing the making of contracts establishing within said areas of industrial districts 11, 12, 13, providing an effective date and providing several. What's that one I saw?
Mayor and council, this is 3 businesses who, at the point of the last industrial district ordinance, had not been included. There was still some contract language that had questions. These 3 businesses are now ready to join the industrial district.
Which 3 businesses were those?
She doesn't have them. I don't have your exhibit A. You have TJ's Machine Shop. You have
G&H Towing and International Inspection Technology.
Okay. What's the favor of council for item 7B?
Make a motion, we approve item 7B.
Second. Second the motion.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
This brings us to item 7C, consider approval of resolution number 2016-782 by the City Council of the City of Aransas Pass, Texas, authorizing and approving publication of notice of intention to issue certificates of obligation complying with the requirements contained in Securities and Exchange Commission Rule 15C2-12, providing an effective date.
Mayor and Council, this is the monies that are available from the refinancing of the prior bonds with the savings of the interest. This $3 million is basically allocated to streets and those things underneath the streets when we touch the streets. I do have Samco here for any questions.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. If it's the Council's pleasure to move forward, we would be back here July 18th for the sale, where we would know the interest rates. We would bid it out, have interest rates brought in. We would award to the low interest rate bidder. Money would be here approximately 30 days after July 18th.
Well, I make a motion that we approve resolution 2016-782, authorizing the, and approving the publication of notice of intent to issue certificates of obligation.
Second bill.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you all very much, and we'll see you in about a month.
Thank you.
This brings us to item 7D, consider an act on rescheduling on the July 4, 2016 the council meeting due to city holiday to Monday, July 11, 2016.
Well, I make a motion that we approve the rescheduling of the city council meeting from the 4th to the 11th of July.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
This brings us to item 7E, consider an act on softball complex lease with Roland Peña regarding safety conditions.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Marcy Hammond, and I'm Roland Peña's daughter, who runs the Aransas Pass softball complex. I'm just here to address some of the issues we've been having with the maintenance of the fields. Going into this season, when we signed our new lease on May the 10th, I believe was the day, we had the understanding that the city was going to be city's responsibility to maintain safe play as far as the fencing, the outer conditions for our citizens to come and enjoy the complex. We run into some kind of situations this season due to the fencing. It's falling down. We had an incident in the outfield last week where the fencing, the bar is broken down. A guy tried to go catch a ball in the outfield. He fell, hit his arm on the fence because the fence is broke. Me and my father had a discussion where we provide insurance for the fields. We were discussing, the maintaining of the fields was supposed to be, redone. There was a bid that went out, I believe a year ago, that designated for the bonds $100,000 to refurbish the Aransas Pass softball complex. This was voted upon through the Facebook page, the city page. They did a voting poll. They also did it through the Aransas Pass Police Department page, where they asked if the city wanted to keep the softball complex. The funds were put aside, I believe, for the complex to do the maintenance for the concession stand, which I think my father put a bid in. It was below $20,000, well below $20,000, to do the necessary needs to the repairs of the complex. The fencing, it needs to be repaired. So that's why I'm here bringing it to the council today to see, if some of these repairs are going to be done, because it was under our understanding and back and forth with emails that I have with Sylvia, Manny, the parks director, stated that the fencing was there, that all we needed was the poles. He contacted my father again and said, hey, Roland, do you want me to drop this fencing off? My father stated, well, Sylvia said she was going to put it out for bid. And this was October 2015, last year. Sylvia stated that it was going to go out for bid, and no bid. We never saw anything of a bid. It never was brought to our attention if, what happened with the remainder of the $80,000 for the scoreboards, the fencing, and the fields, the sand. Our issue that we've been incurring this last month is rain. Nobody can account Mother Nature, but we've, on our new contract, we're not allowed rain-out days. But our fields, y'all provided, I believe my father raised money to get the dirt. We gave some to the Little League, and then we have no type of, I don't know if the city was going to provide us with a tractor to put the dirt on the fields, but we come to the situation where the fields are now like a bowl-like shape. I've spent countless hours by myself, because my father works out of town a lot, squeegeeing the fields just to try to make them playable. We need dirt. We need dirt. We need a tractor to move the dirt on the fields to make it playable. And we just need the maintenance for the fencing.
Replace the fencing, right?
Yeah. We also have a light that's dangling in the outfield on field 2 that's been like that for a year, and I know that was requested to be fixed, and I know we're in our contract it says to give 10 days allocated notice for any type of repairs, but we've also had problems with not having toilet paper in our restrooms and not having the trash picked up. And today was the first day out of the whole time we have obtained our lease on May the 10th that the trash has been picked up. The trash cans were overflowing, and the softball complex, it's really windy down there.
Right.
And I pick up the trash every night that we are used to the fields, and every time I come back, the trash is everywhere. So just wanted to say that we're picking up the trash, but if anybody complains, the parks. We only could do so much. So my question is this maintenance going to get done? Because we run into an issue with us holding insurance and who's going to be responsible and liable if somebody was to get injured out there. And our overall goal is just to have safety for the players out there and our community and our citizens that use the fields, on the weekends with their families.
Right. What can we do about the fencing, sort of?
Her father did receive the bid. You guys approved the $26,000 repair to the concession stand and the structure, and he was paid. The city bought the material. He was paid for his labor, and it did total about $26,000. Yes. The fencing was going to go out for bid. We were going to then include the Little League field, but then the season has started. My last discussion with the Little League was wait till the season wanes down so that we can repair the fencing, because at that point, if we get started, et cetera, it's just a matter of timing. The funds are allocated, the funds are there, but it does still need to go out for bid for a complete repair.
What about the light?
We're actually bringing a person on staff. We have spent tens of thousands of dollars with FSG, Scott, and a variety of other electricians who never seem to get to the root cause of the problem. Mm-hmm. So we're actually bringing a staff member on board to do that, an electrician on board to be able to do not only those lights, but the Little League, the harbor, and all the other stuff that we have around town.
What about as far as tractor work in the field?
That's just a scheduling issue. I don't have a request from them to bring a tractor to move dirt. This is the first I hear of it.
Right.
So
we can set a schedule up for that, correct? As far as the housekeeping and stuff?
We did put a dumpster out for them. I guess the major concern is after the games that the trash is there. The expectation is city staff's going to come and clean up all the trash when it's trash that was created from the ball fields, from the play game, from the date. We will put a dumpster out there, but again, it has to be in the circle of rotation. We're not going to get to it immediately. And you're right, it's windy and it's blowing, and so by the time we do get to it, even if it's the very next day, it's already been out there 8 hours in the wind from the time they ended their softball games to the next day. I can't have a staffer on call at 11 o'clock at night to go empty trash the night of the softball game. That's just not realistic.
It was a month. It was a month. It was just now picked up today. I routinely go out there like several times a week, and it was the same trash that when we very first started the season, before our players were even out there, it was the same trash. And trash is trash. We have people come from the pools.
Right.
No, it was the same trash. They're all by the dugouts. They were literally like dumped on top for a month. It was like that. So that's just for the issue. But I can understand a couple weeks. The city has to make their rounds. No, this has been a month, and it was just now finally today when we were out there trying to maintain the field to get them ready. We weren't able to. We ended up having to cancel it tonight because of the rain. It was the same trash that had been there for a month.
What is the scheduling on the trash?
It is a weekly
It is,
rotation. I
okay.
was looking for Sarah or Manny in the audience. It is a weekly rotation to pick up trash. They've never had a dumpster. They've been relying on just the normal spillover cans.
Okay.
The dumpster arrived, should have arrived at some point last week. Has not arrived still? Yeah. Dumpster should have arrived at some point last week. I spoke to Sarah Lee. The dumpster was on its way. So that was, I had a text message with Roland about a week and a half ago on, we're just going to put a dumpster out there because those trash cans overfill and overflow.
Sure.
But the trash shouldn't have been out there a month.
So who checks all that on the basic?
Sarah Lee, our community enrichment person.
And we still have no toilet paper. I'm just, I've been providing it from my own residence, bringing it. I know we've requested it several times.
Who do you request it to?
My father has sent you through emails.
Not toilet paper. I promise you that.
I have the email. Let me see.
That the restrooms are out of toilet paper and we're not stocking toilet paper?
Yeah, and that the toilet was broken. We also told her in the email the toilet was broken because in the men's restroom, when you flush it, the water starts spraying out.
We have Anthony Gaskins, who's our part-time building maintenance person, who went out and changed the lock. He went out and did some
He changed the lock,
repairs.
but he didn't change anything else. I had to put the bag over the toilet again. It was still spraying. And that was just this week. I just checked it.
So is the toilet still broken then?
Yes. The toilet's still broken. I just bagged it, so I mean the floor is not going to get damaged. It's a urinal for the men's, so I put a trash bag around it. There's still one other one in a stall that the men's can use. So
how soon can we get?
First thing
bids out
tomorrow.
for fencing?
Well, I can get we have one to be ordered and delivered on Wednesday. That's a dumpster. That should have happened last week. But the short-term repairs, we can have Anthony out there tomorrow. I'm not sure why he's not out there because my exchange with Roland was he's getting the key. You came for the key. At that point, wasn't aware that Anthony didn't finish whatever repair needed to be repaired.
yeah, he repaired the knob, the broken, because there was vandalism out there. I picked that up, but I did not speak with him. I spoke with an older man that said that he was just going to pass the key off to me.
So in terms of the bid, you'll see it on your next council agenda. We'll have to coordinate with the Little League because they're not going to be too happy. But
we could always have separate dates. Do their fencing first and then another time do
For the Little League,
remains.
yeah.
Little League should be winding down by this time of the year.
July is when they told me, end of July.
Unless if they're hosting tournaments, they have it in July.
Mhm.
In most cases, by this time in June, they're just about
Yeah, they
finished.
said when we met was end of July, but we can get bids out here pretty quick.
Thank y'all.
Thank you. So I'm gonna throw this out at you, it's probably from left field, but it's baseball. Considering, since we're looking at item 7, considering that the city manager items, and I don't know how the council feels about this, but I really truly think we need to reinstate our parks department. Not only for the parks, but also for clean up gutters and stuff around the city.
Actually, I'm glad you mentioned that because there is a plan in place that you'll be seeing at the next council meeting that I can already assure you is already in place to reinstate about 10 people. And what you will see tonight in your finance packet includes an elimination of outside engineers and outside consultants. That will not be a hit on the budget. Our engineering fees alone total about $600,000 a year. Our electrical fees to Scott, to Irving, to FSG, to all of those companies total more than $180,000 a year. So the request to staff had been, and I'll bring that up to you.
I don't know, you meant well by bringing in all these department heads and everything to get a sense of organization.
Here's the reorganization that is planned we from the last storm event, it is not just a matter of being able to operate like we're on an island because we can't depend on the drainage district, we can't depend on anybody, is reinstating not just the mowing crew but the parks crew. And then there's also a hot shot crew to deal with the troubleshooting. There is a maintenance superintendent position to deal with the pump maintenance, to deal with preventive maintenance, to deal with the lift stations. All of our crews have been short one person. We have a contingent of 3 people for each staff contingent, and you need 4. You need 4 people on a water crew, you need 4 people on a sewer crew, and you need 4 people on a street crew.
That's if everybody shows up for work.
That's right. That's if everybody shows up for work. at a minimum, there's 3 people operating. So there is some consolidation here under SID, which is water, streets, and drainage. This is parks back. This is a maintenance division that has not been in existence in a long time, which is, evidenced by what you see around town. And then our sanitary sewer plant needs assistance. What you don't see out here is Eli, who is a local resident, being a consulting engineer, and Fernando, who should be getting his PE at the end of the year. So just by getting rid of the outside engineering firms and our electrical contracts, our big electrical contracts, that's about $500,000. That will pay for this supplemental staff. And, unfortunately, it is one of those, would it be great to be able to rely on the drainage district to mow and to make sure that our ditches and culverts are great because our taxpayers pay for it on their tax bill? Yes, it'd be great, but the reality of it is it's not happening. And we're getting beat up 10 ways to Sunday. And it's the same thing with the parks. Parks are on a specific rotation. The trash during the busy season accumulates, the wind. It seems like it's an unbeatable battle with the current number of staff that we have. So there are new positions that are slated in the budget, and staff's been given the directive to begin advertising for those positions, and we will phase them in as the budget adoption comes.
Like I was saying a while ago, you bring department heads and stuff, but it seems like we got more chiefs than Indians.
Actually, no. If you look at the org chart, there's not a whole lot of chiefs. The organization is pretty flat.
One of my problems is, which I called you about it, is that I go out there at 9:30 at night, see a pump running dry. It should have been off at 5 o'clock, which is quitting time, correct, for the city?
No, we have staff on call 24/7.
Well, I called you, and then you sent one of our engineers to turn off that pump, and he didn't know how to operate it. I see that as a serious concern.
That's correct. This is this division here, this maintenance division that has never happened. Never happened in the history of this city.
We have a brand new pump off of Goodnight, correct? That little new building, or is it an old pump with the new building?
It's been rehabbed. The new pump is coming on to the Euclid station.
But we have nothing at Goodnight that's brand new?
We have a refurbished motor, I believe, is what we have.
What about the pump itself?
I'm not sure that the pump is new, but regardless.
The only reason I say, because I went my rounds just doing my thing. You have a 2x6, two 2x6 used as pipe supports, wood holding up pipe string, which probably you may or may not know, maybe engineers do know of the city. When you create pipe strings, you wear down your pumps. When you have 2x6s as a temporary fix, as you fabricate something out of metal to have pipe supports, then you're done. That's been there for a long time already. You got rope holding up pipes off of Euclid's.
Yeah, I'm not going to tell you that the staff is resident experts in what they do, because they're not. We're trying to get there, and unfortunately, it's not happening as fast as we would like it to happen. Not just our pump operators, but most of our staff know probably enough to be dangerous. We have some resident experts, but as people retire and as people leave, they take that institutional knowledge with them. Right now, it is very hard to keep any staff on board. Any staff.
What's the reason on that?
We don't pay enough. We don't pay enough. Yeah, we pay $11.15 to start, which is higher than anybody around us, but the turnover rate is very high. Again, we're advertising. We're going to do what we can to supplement with temporary positions as needed, but the reality of it is, to do all of the work in front of us, we're going to need to supplement the staff.
We've had a plan for a while ago, right?
This plan we did as a root cause analysis to what happened with the flooding. Why did certain things happen? Why weren't certain things kicked on? And, the reality of it is, there's not enough people to do the job. There's not enough people.
Are all our pumps right now in automatic?
No, some of them are still. We have several rental pumps as well. We have several temporary pumps, so.
Is there a program, an app, or something we could find, like a center control room that shows and tells you what RPMs your pumps are hitting, what flow rate?
I'm going to leave that to the maintenance superintendent. I'm not an expert in that to tell you. I'm going to leave that to the maintenance superintendent and the engineers to put a plan together. I know one of the things that has been brought up is at least let us know when the pumps are on, and that means, if the residents want to see a bright flashing light or something, to at least know that the pumps are on, to stop, the 911 calls. Did you turn on the pumps? Did you turn on the pumps? And the calls that you guys get, to at least give some sort of visual. But in terms of the actual setting of the pumps, the maintenance of those pumps, those troubleshooting of the pumps, I need a person on staff to do that. And right now, we don't have a resident expert on staff. And I don't believe we have ever had a resident expert on staff. Those pumps have been, not just the current pumps, but some of our older pumps have been, babied through the years. We have one that's 30 years old that just went out today. Could it have been saved? Probably, but we don't do a whole lot of preventive maintenance here. The preventive maintenance programs just started last year. So we still have a long way to go. I'm not going to deny that. We still have a long way to go.
How long before you hire your maintenance?
He's supposed to start July 1.
Where's he come from?
It's John Gomez, actually.
He's the one who repaired the one at the harbor, right?
He was the previous owner of Sierra Electric.
So if he come work for the city, he's going to quit his other job?
Correct.
Business?
Correct. He has signed an employment agreement that he's not going to have an outside contract.
So somewhere in all that, did you say we are going to reinstate a community parks and recreation?
Well, we haven't got there yet.
You won't have a community parks person per se. I would love at some point to be able to have a person that manages the softball, a future swimming team, a future all that. We're not there. We're at the points of being able to have a mowing and a parks maintenance crew again.
That's a start.
That's a start, yes, it's a start. And that's six positions, 2 teams of 3, basically.
10-4. So item 7E, what are we going to do about it? What's the favor of the council? We're going to make a motion to fix the fencing as soon as possible, or what's the favor of the council?
I don't know what we.
7E with the.
I know, but
Well, yeah, you got us so far off that we're.
Yeah.
Where are we? What are we talking about?
Albuquerque, I don't know where the hell we are now.
Well, with the softball fields,
I don't think you have action on this because it was, the title was consider an act on the lease itself. There's nothing that's being amended on the lease.
So we can have something on the next meeting?
Yeah, I think
To go out for bids, right?
again, I say even if we need to get the bids in so we can fix the softball fields, even if it means fixing the softball fields maintenance and waiting on the Little League fields to get done because of their use.
So when you hire John's maintenance, he does electrical, right?
He does electrical and mechanical, yes.
So he knows the pumps in and out.
Correct.
What's his backing on it?
I'm sorry?
What's his backing on the pumps?
What's his backing?
What's his background?
I'll discuss that offline with you.
Okay, just curious. Because there's a difference between the electrical side and the pump side, as far as alignments and stuff. So that's fine, we'll discuss it. 7F, consider not allocating funds for drainage study.
This was your item, Mayor.
Yeah.
You wanted to allocate funds for a drainage study. What I presented to you was you've been presented with dollars on what to fund before in excess of $1 million. And that's not with the repair. That's just try to come up with a plan.
Right now, you were saying we do have a plan though, right? As a city, from our engineers?
We are supposed to have a master drainage plan by the San Patricio Drainage District. It is not a complete drainage plan, no.
Have we ever had one by them? Or
No.
And it is their duty to give us one?
Correct. And I believe what was presented to you, here's the drainage plan. determining runoff, but, you know, I understand the flood is at the forefront. I understand there are things that, you know, we want to have a hair trigger and get a drainage answer. It's not, hiring an engineer tomorrow is not going to come up with a drainage answer, even by this time next year, more than likely, because it's a matter of, it's more than just a drainage plan. We don't even know what our land use is supposed to be, our future land use, okay? Those are comprehensive plans that are still being worked on. It's very hard to calculate drainage when you don't know what you're going to ultimately build out to. We don't know what our drainage basins are. We don't have any information. It's almost starting from scratch. So can we throw money at it? Yes. I can throw money at a plan all day. I'd much rather throw the money digging ditches. I'd much rather throw money finding a place for the water to go, or at least retaining the water a little bit, than have the engineer tell me, well, your drainage basin is 3 and 4 miles wide, but for another $1 million, maybe I'll tell you where to drain the ditch. You know, we've got local people. I've got some pictures that Mr. Hargrave, who works in Bay Harbor, and some other local engineers local residents have offered to help us with, and it is not, this is the primary problem at the Euclid station. This is yesterday, June the 5th. That's not even high tide. Okay, Euclid drains in this area. At the points of the flood, these are called duckbills. When the water fills, the water's supposed to empty and empty out into the bay. The velocity of the water is supposed to empty out into the bay. When the water's up to here, obviously there's nowhere for that water to go. The ditch system at Euclid, it's not just a matter of the ditch system at Euclid being broken, because broken it is, and there's really, we can pump it all day long, but if the water at high tide is up over those duckbills and up over those outfalls, there's nowhere for that water to go. We're just recirculating with the pumps. We're just recirculating water. It's more than a Euclid ditch issue. It's an upstream issue. We have DeBerry, Saunders. Almost 70% of the city drains in this area. The rest of the city drains to the McCampbell Slough. From Lowe's, basically, on 1069 drains to the McCampbell Slough. The only solution, the only temporary solution at this point that I'd much rather spend $1 million on, is digging more ditches around town where water can not only be detained, right, wait for an outfall to be available so water continues to flow, but then probably also retain water so it doesn't have to make its way down and it can make its way back into the water table. If it's council's desire to spend $1 million on a drainage study, then please give me the directive and I'll go hire the engineers. I think it's much better spent doing the actual work and digging some actual ditches.
My reason for bringing this up was because, like the flood we had, it's a concern of every citizen here. A lot of people that are up here on council, we're going to be here 20 years from now, Lord willing. You know, we got to answer to the citizens that we work for. We don't do due diligence with the money we have to do things right the first time, not patch it up and do it over and over. The way I look at it, we're vested. Some other people here aren't vested.
By that you mean me?
And I mean you. I'm calling you, which is true.
Well, I take offense to that, Mayor.
But, you know, it's
Which I know you don't care, but I take offense to
the way
it.
it is, though. I mean, we're the ones that got to answer from whatever action we take as a council. We got to answer from now on. We'll never hear the end of it. We can't just pick up and say we leave. So everything we have to do may not seem the smartest thing to do, but if I got a question, I'm going to ask it. If there's a way we can make things better, if it calls from getting outside help from civil engineers or whatever it takes, or maybe looking at our fellow cities, see how they get rid of their stuff. And I'm not talking about corporates and water boil, because we got our own problems. But we got to work together to work with somebody else to get a plan what's going to work good here and around this path.
Well, I will tell you, your time on council is 2 years. I get accosted at HEB and bakery and everywhere else, so trust me when I say I'm vested, and I feel it as well. The residents come up to me. I have several residents who have my personal cell phone. I have residents who come knock on my door. So you're not alone in that regard at all. My fellow city manager friends do not give out their personal cell phone number. Just so you understand my tenacity and dedication to this town. because I could be anywhere else but here. I choose to be here. And after I finish working here, I'm going to stay here. I'm not going anywhere. I plan to make Aransas Pass my home. The issue with the flooding, the graphic that's in front of you shows what was predicted. There's this blue line here as to what was predicted, and then there's this orange line as to what actually occurred. None of the weather forecasters predicted the amount of rain that we were going to receive that evening. Ingleside has an outside engineering firm who is doing a drainage study for them. Ingleside flooded. Rockport has an outside engineering firm. Rockport flooded. Portland has an outside engineering firm. Portland flooded.
So what can we do so we don't flood?
I've got a question, if you don't mind me. Do
What's
we
that,
know
Billy?
like where all our drainage goes? Like if this street, where does it drain? And
Our city forefathers were great in allocating drainage ways.
I think and I agree with you, if we're going to spend $1 million, I would much rather build our own.
We
whether it be
have
retention ponds
dedicated drainage ways
I
that
don't
have
need to
never
spend
been
$1 million
dug.
So someone tells me what to do.
We have dedicated drainage ways that have never been dug.
Okay.
We have ditches
And
that
they're in
really
our
go
right
to
of
nowhere.
ways? Are
They
they-
are in our right of ways. They don't require acquiring any additional right of way. It is a matter of digging the ditch. And I joked with somebody that I needed an Iowa farm boy who knew how to dig flatland irrigation canals in a cornfield. That's the kind of person I need down here to be able to, flow water, because we are flat, and then we are fighting not just gravity, but we're fighting the bay.
Sure.
When it is, the difficulty around the Euclid area, as all of the city is trying to drain in that area, is we're fighting high tide. We have homes on Porpoise and Pompano who have water coming up on their back deck and who were complaining about water in their front yard. And my response is, by the time water is in your front yard, that's because Arch and Euclid have 4 feet of water in them. I'm not going to worry about water in your front yard, but I'm still accosted at HEB by those same people. So, I understand the importance, and I'm not by any means trying to say, no, we don't need an outside engineering firm, but you saw the cost. It was $1.2 million for a drainage study that will not end up in a single ditch being dug.
Sure. Well, just like the woman at Sherwood Forest, just as far as just a simple maintenance,
A lot of
when
our
people mow
things
their
are
grass,
not
they
just
dump
that's
it in
right.
the street, and then of course now our entire town has paid the cost.
A lot of our things is a matter of finally just connecting the pieces together. And the plan, the map that you see in my office has dedicated drainage ways, but there's no ditch dug there.
Right.
There was a 60-inch line that was put in some areas, but it didn't go anywhere. And then later on, somebody came and put a piece of wood, and then it collapsed, and there's nowhere for water to go because of simple obstruction. People dumping, the culverts not being cleaned. Can we do a better job in storm preparation? Yes. This storm came earlier than expected, earlier than any of our preparations anyway would have reached. So one of our root causes, well, then we don't start storm prep in May. We got to start storm prep in March.
Now, this maintenance department that you want to implement, is this going to be their part of
Their primary focus is not just the pumps for storm,
Sure,
but the
sure,
pump,
no,
the lift
well,
station pumps,
everything's gotta go
because
somewhere.
we have the exact same issue with flooding and the downstream effect that happens at the wastewater treatment plant. When Hurricane Celia took all of the facilities that were up at Com Brown Harbor, what it left behind was a lot of open taps. So when Com Brown floods and our low-lying areas flood, all of that water infiltrates and it goes, guess where? It goes to the wastewater treatment plant. And people on DeBerry can't flush, and people on Railroad can't flush. That's not a function of wastewater that's clogging up the system. That's a function of stormwater that's clogging the system. It's a function of there's nowhere else for that water to go because we haven't created a good ditch system throughout the town. And that is the only thing that's going to be the resolution to the drainage problem. I can put underground culverts all day long. That's very expensive. It's very expensive, and our soil conditions really doesn't work. The ditch will serve as not only a place for water to be retained and detained, but a place for the water to go and eventually make its way out into the bay.
So the other one was all the mosquitoes. I know the city's doing their part, handing out donuts. I don't know if people are aware of that or not.
Well, we're still on item 7F, and that's the drainage study.
Okay. The way I look at it, it's dead, right?
It's a
Council?
consider an act from council.
So we do not have the manpower at this time to move forward on the ditches and the doing the ditches
equipment.
and the drainage and the equipment. And do we have all of that to get started on it?
We're in the process of hiring staff.
Okay.
What you'll see in probably maybe by your next council meeting as we prepare for the budget fair is not only budget needs, equipment, personnel, manpower, all of that stuff, but you'll also be given a root cause, and you'll also be given a, if we ever face this situation again, these are the things we're going to need. We have 90% of what we need. I think there's only probably 3 pieces of equipment that are necessary for us to operate as if we're on our own island. And, you know, I hate to say it, but we are. We can't depend on the county, either one of the 3 counties that we're around. Can't depend on the drainage district. And honestly, the folks out here understand how long it took the Red Cross to get here, how long it took the outside charities to get here, and FEMA never got here. So these are things that do not happen overnight, and unfortunately the city is tasked with responding immediately to the events. So it's
we
just,
charge the counties for our work, for taking care of the ditches.
Yeah, good luck.
No, I'm just saying.
I can't even get them to spray mosquitoes.
no. So if council wants to direct that we go seek an outside engineering firm for a drainage study, then please take that up for a vote.
Really get the equipment.
Well, I make a motion that we do not go out for a drainage study.
I second that.
All fair say aye.
Aye.
This brings us to item 7G, consider national master plan of community parks and recreation. So the paperwork we have here, this is the final drawing, right?
This is, and Eli is here to review, to go over the master plan. There was some discussion as to the location of the skate park, the location of the dog park, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Eli, you can come up to the podium. Eli is our resident engineer who is going to be our consulting engineer in Public Works. The first of all, I'd like to make the council understand that Community Park, although it seems big, is not as big. We don't own everything that you see in Community Park when you drive in. We simply do not own it. So there was a discussion about the skate park location, which is right here, and its proximity to the Little League fields, foul balls, et cetera, et cetera. I can tell you during the discussion with Eli about the softball field placement, several things were taken into consideration. One, really, the use of what is considered shrimpery grounds. How much can we actually infringe on what is to be used for shrimpery? The other was when we planned or had reviewed its location at the adult fields, the discussion was, well, that's incompatibility to age groups, there's drinking at the softball fields, et cetera, et cetera. We don't want the kids exposed to that, et cetera, et cetera. And then there's always a question of lighting and proximity to restrooms and parking. So that was the discussion for the softball fields. The consulting engineer that we had the softball fields placed in the exact same location except rotated 90 degrees. Eli did it parallel to the fence to the larger field. The dog run is stipulated over at the end of the parking lot area that you can see. Here's the parking lot, here's the aquatic center, here's the larger softball fields. This is the smaller dog run, this is the larger dog run. It takes up that entire portion of field. That's what the dog park is supposed to look like. The skate park, this is Eli's rendering. Like I said, the consulting engineer, the other consulting engineer had the skate park placed in this vicinity. Okay, had it rotated 90 degrees. You can see here there's the lighting, there's the existing parking lot, there's a sidewalk that's supposed to go to the skate park. He's given you other electrical details for the vendor pads. So this point, council really needs to make a decision as to location of these two particular assets. And, you know, from staff's perspective, we're not tied to anything in particular. Wherever you tell us to put it, we'll put it. I just wanted the council to be aware it was not just a matter of we're going to plop it right here because that's where we want to plop it. There was some thought placed into its location. Everything that's over here in this particular area that is around the aquatic center that has all of the dirt and that fill area does not belong to the city of Aransas Pass in its entirety. There is a small vestige here that belongs to us. The rest of this is privately owned. We own this area here, which was also a discussion for location, but then the discussion was, well, that's the potential for another field for the Little League people, so you can't put it there. Okay, well, what about it, you know, over here in this big area where we've got, you know, where the shrimpery is going to be used? Well, again, that's going to take up space that right now space is at a premium. Shrimpery is growing every year, and they're packed tighter and tighter, so at this point, we'd like the council to make a decision on where they want these two assets, and we're perfectly fine with wherever you choose to place them.
The equipment being placed, they're just bolt on or bolt off?
They're bolted in.
Bolted in, so they could be removed?
They're just rails. They're not, there's one large ramp, but the rest of them are just rails themselves.
So let's say we put it by the park, by the shrimpery grounds. For shrimpery time, we could remove everything out of the way, couldn't we?
Isn't there concrete that's going to be?
They're in the concrete. They're
anchored in.
They're anchored in the concrete.
So yeah, it wouldn't be getting moved around.
So the reason by not putting a shrimpery is lighting, restrooms, and so on, correct?
And if we decided to go at shrimpery ground, we'd rehab, you know, there'd be some extra costs involved to rehab the blue building, which has restrooms and, you know, those kinds of things. But, you know,
But then
that's
we still
really,
have lighting problem.
you'd still have a lighting problem, yes.
And at the dog, where it was at the dog park, it was going to be, like, here's where the dog park is. Wasn't there talk about
it being right across the sidewalk,
Yeah.
across the sidewalk next to the adult fields? But then we got into, well, we're now allowing drinking at the park and et cetera. I don't want my kids around that, et cetera, et cetera. And, you know, we go back and forth as to.
I understand.
You're not going to please everybody.
No, and the location where it is today, we said, all right, well, maybe we'll just put a net around it. I mean, if the issue is.
I think that is the biggest issue is even though the time that I was out there, the winds were probably 30 miles an hour, and the odds of them hitting a foul ball are probably pretty slim, but still there is that possibility.
It's 200 feet from home plate, and the only solution we had was to net it.
Then we'd be liable for the net in all times, right? We have to keep it up.
Maintenance on it.
So Eli's available for any questions. I mean, I want the council to understand it's not just a.
Let's put it here.
Yeah, let's put it here. I mean, there's been some pretty serious discussion. Eli's gone back and forth with the chamber vendors on even the vendor pad, the electrical for the vendor pad. We seem to keep going back and forth because what's actually used and what do you need, and well, sometimes I bring a generator, sometimes I don't. This has been a very amoeba project to try to get our arms around and try to complete.
And that's the electrical at the pad itself right now.
That's
right?
the electrical at the pad itself. So I'll let you go through the summary points.
Oh, thank you. Well, there is a lot of detail there, and actually I've got some other files there, so if someone wanted more information, I've got even more information than that, you know. But, yeah, to go over the summary points, because like I said, we looked at a lot of this, and one is a pavilion, and you saw that on that drawing that she has also, and when the other engineers were looking at this, they were thinking that pavilion might cost around $1 million. Well, I've been kind of looking, putting in a lot of time to go, what are the other ways to do that, you know, and I found this metal building company that can also do the concrete design. So the right, of course, their prices change because, they can't hold the price forever, but they gave us a quote like $156,000 for a metal building, and the design for the concrete was about $1,000, and then we would have to pay, of course, to get the concrete in there, which that could be maybe $150,000, $200,000, and then to do the electrical for that let's say $50,000, So we're talking about maybe for $500,000, about half the cost, So that's where that pavilion would be. It's exactly right where the tent that they use right now for their events,
And if you recall, council's our thought with the pavilion, because we are a big basketball town, because there isn't sufficient room at the gyms for the multitude of basketball teams, was this could also be a place to hold basketball tournaments. It could also be used by the school to do basketball practice and those kinds of things.
This would have the K-bid for like 3 basketball courts. It would have lights on it, and it's pretty tall, like 27 feet tall. It's the tent that they use for the shrimpery is like 100 by 200, and this one I've got like an extra, I don't know, it's 20, 40 feet, because I was thinking we're putting a stage on the north end. So one of the things that I saw with shrimpery is that they had a lot of problems with it. People get up close to the bands, that way they could be up at a higher elevation, and people could see from further back, and you wouldn't have some of the liability issues, that you could possibly have with otherwise, So that was one of the summary items I wanted to mention, that pavilion, because
that pavilion, though, it's going to have basketball hoops and everything built into it, or where they retract?
They go up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, can I ask a question? Where are the bathrooms for that?
Right.
We have to rehab the.
Okay.
For the house.
All right.
That's his, and he has a point to that. Maintenance issues do not build more than you can take care of.
Sure.
I mean, that's a constant with all of our things. Do we really want to build another building? I remember the prior council told me, well, we didn't get reelected because there was no building with our name on it. Well, do you really want to build something we can't pay for? We can't pay the electric, we can't pay the maintenance on it? No, that's never a...
Yeah, and possibly someone might want to have their name on a facility like that, because it's a big facility, so we could probably look at the possibility of someone to provide funding, for that.
Some naming rights.
Yep.
And they can pay for the upkeep.
But one of the things got into, and that we still have a lot of problems is going into that area, is with the traffic. And one of the neighbors was just telling me yesterday that where you come from the swimming pool, but divided, there were cars racing down to let's see who gives, that they're both on both sides, one on one side. So they're really pushing for putting the speed bumps. And in fact, they're talking about coming over here and ask you if they can sponsor somebody to pay for them and get them installed. So they're really up in the air about that, So I wanted to bring that out, and I think that could be done fairly easily. Over on the south side, there's been a lot of trash and all that. So we talk about possibly for the future doing maybe like a bird sanctuary, or so we also mentioned like some kind of a walk around the area, So all this, to help be a nicer area, for and more eye pleasing and something that the city could enjoy and visitors. On the signage. I'm starting to see a lot of the harbor bay that shows like the Pelican and all that. I see that a lot, and maybe that could become the universal sign for the city. But also, there's a lot of signage that's not anywhere near that. So I think that we need to have a more consistent signage for the city. To when you see that, you say you're in Aransas Pass or you're linked to Aransas Pass, one way or the other. And that could be used in a lot of different areas. I think that you could have a task force just to study that. And by the way, as I've been here, I'm going to kind of shoot this in here right quick. Beg your pardon, But like Roy, you were talking about specifications. As part of this package that I'm working for the electrical for the vendor, I've got a 50-page specification. So, and one of the sections in there is instructions to bidders. Roy talks about who's qualified to bid, and they have to fill out the bid form, and also I'll talk about who cannot bid on that. And of course, Sylvia has a copy of that, so y'all can,
It's here.
y'all are privy
It's
to
in their
that,
packet.
you know.
It's in their packet.
So that addresses some of those concerns, you know, the concerns you were talking about, as you can see there on the bottom of that summary, you know. And I'm gonna talk some more about that. But I just want to allude that somebody said y'all been bringing up the thing about the drainage study, you know. I'm sure all of you have heard about a retreat, and that is very important. And I think it would be good to have maybe on a yearly basis have a retreat and for this personnel right here, and probably we could invite some chief engineer like me that's retired, you know, and doesn't charge a lot of money, you know, and that's why I'm here. You know, that's a civil engineer, and you could probably get him pretty cheap, but he has a lot of knowledge on his head, you know, and to attend that retreat and to talk about that one subject, you know, because that's something that we drag around back and forth, and you could probably do a lot of things from that, benefit a lot. Yeah. You want to go back to the summary, Sylvia?
Mhm.
Oh, you're looking at the.
No, I was I was showing them the specification.
Yeah.
So the electrical, you're going Div 1 or Div 2?
How's that?
And your electrical, you're going Div 1, Div 2, as far as sealing everything up for water, for your underground electrical?
Oh,
No, we're using a brand new product.
let me go back to that.
It's in the it's in the PowerPoint. I'll show. Yeah, here you go.
Yeah, these, I'm looking at two possibilities, you know, but one is because that is a flood zone, when you come from the transformer, there's another device also, that's a thing from a different page, you know, but it's, if you think of your trigger here like a wire coming in here and then you bolt it on, these would be inside of a box. Back up one page, Sylvia. Look at the, okay, go up one more, sorry about that. Go up one more page. All right, see the junction box? Yeah, right there, the little one. So you got the transformer, and then that goes to a junction box. Inside that junction box are these devices, and the same ones that AEP uses, you know. So you can bolt in this wire so that when you're using the system, you can bolt it in. And this is very easy to take. You just unbolt it. And I brought a sample that I showed to Sylvia. You can unbolt it, pull out the wire, you recap it, and they're watertight, so we can comply with FEMA. So say you got a hurricane coming, whatever, you want to disconnect the whole system, we just go there and tell the AEP turn off the transformer, get an electrician, come over here, and we disconnect it. It's completely dead. Everything is, you know.
Now, those, Eli, we're looking just to run where the concrete pad's at now. We're looking to put where all the vendors have their tents also.
This is the only design that I've been working on right now in detail. You know, later, hopefully, you know, I was over there in the grounds today taking some more measurements, and I can see where there's a need to do other things there, you know, so that hopefully you have more things like that. But the previous picture that Sylvia was showing, those were, they're called pin and sleeve connectors, and that down right there, that's a pin and sleeve. Okay, now Sylvia, go back to the previous drawing again. If you look on the upper right hand of the drawing there, that's where those are the pin and sleeve connectors right there. They're also, if that's kind of at the stage where we don't have a hurricane coming in, but we're through a shrimpery, we unplug the panels, go put them up, and we leave that. And what you see right there, that's only about this tall, maybe this wide, you know. You covered it with something about this big, and that way kids can't get into it and beat it up and all that stuff, you know. And
the kids at the skate park.
The only thing is that that's expensive. Those components, and I've got like a price sheet there also. You know, they're about like you know, the plug and the male and female, they're like about almost $1,000 each. You know, however. Again, go back to the previous one, Sylvia, and look at the one on the left, you know, next sheet E, next sheet. Yeah. Okay, all right, go top of it. You see, if you look to the left side, that's more like of a traditional electrical system, but I'm putting that as a base bid, and I'm putting the other as an alternate bid, you know. And that's one thing that I've spent a lot of time on this, you know. But I want to give you choices, you know. So rather just saying, here it is, here's what you see is what you get. Instead, what you're saying, okay, here's the way that most people would do it today, you know, even though that would be the NEMA 3R, which is outdoor rated, and the gutter that I've got on there would be stainless steel, you know. But on top of that, we say, okay, what do we use these pin and sleeve connectors that are watertight and all that? They cost more, but we've got them as an additive alternate. So that way you can see how much they cost, and if you want them, you can include them. If not, you know, you can get the traditional. But either way, I've got kind of two ways where you can unplug things, you know, and you don't have to leave things out there, you know, during the bad weather and all that.
To plug things in and out, other than kill the main power, that's the only time you need AEP out there. Otherwise, we could use John Wright, our electrician.
Oh yes, that's right. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And by the way, on all these designs, there's nothing that I've done. Is I visited with like 3 electrical companies, and at that time John was not working here, so I visited with him also. You know, I visited with RAM. I visited with electric. I still got my drawings with another electric contractor in Corpus Christi. So I'm having people take a look at it and say, hey, what do you think about this? You know, is Eli crazy or what? You know, so it's to get their opinions. You know, so rather make sure that you're getting a good product, and not just what I'm thinking, but several people had a chance to look at it. Okay, you want to go back to the summary thing? Or? All right. So we're talking about signage. I think another thing to do is since that area is developing, is to have a scaled drawing of the community area, and you can do with the flyovers. And I can, if there's interest in that, I can get a price to see what they would. Now you can also have surveyors go and do that, and I can get a price to see what they would charge to do that. Slow down traffic coming in from South Commercial. When you get out of East Johnson and Cary, I don't know if it's the same thing with you when you coming out from West Johnson, but when you get on Commercial, you get up there and you look both ways, and you better get ready to roll, you know, because they're coming in fast, you know. So maybe the speed limit could be lowered. I don't know. But I'm just bringing that up because, again, because of the neighborhood or the people are bringing this up, and I said I'm going to have an opportunity on Monday, so I'll throw it out there, you know. The last one is maintenance issues. Do not build more than you can take care of. You know, I come from a university background, so we always face with the taking care of buildings, and renovations. You know, and of course the presidents always want to build a name for this. So they want a new building. You know, but we got to take care of the old buildings. You know, we want to spend the money in the renovations. You know, so.
How long do you see this lasting, Eli? If we were to go with the electrical plan, how long? 10 years, 20 years before we start having deterioration and stuff?
Okay, yeah, that's a very good question. I didn't get your name. Marcy. Marcy was talking about the problems over at the softball field, and in fact, we had a repair made at one of the panels at the recreation field. You know, this equipment could, in a way, can almost last forever. The problem is that there's no care that has been taken care of. You know, there's this one panel when I first came and started first working with Sylvia. You know, it was hanging off the pole. I mean, the panel was like this. You know, the electrical contractor the first thing to look at is, well, we need to replace the panel. We need to put in new circuit breakers for about $5,000. So I got to looking around. We tied the panel back up, checked all the breakers working all right and everything. It's working there today, $352, I think. You know. And a lot of the panels there were in the fields are the softball fields, and like they're rusty and everything. Some of them, on one of them, one of the baseball field just needs a hasp on it. We can install that pretty cheap, and I've already talked to a contractor, and I said, what about if we just, you know, put some rust killer on these panels, you know, and just spray it with a galvanized paint, you know?
Yeah.
I bet you add 5 years, easy.
Yeah. Just coat galvanized.
You know, easy. But we get it better looking, and it works. You know, that light that you're talking about. One of the things that the Sylvia's contractor to do some other work for her because I'm so cheap. Really, I don't want to talk too much about another, but just to kind of give you an idea. I mean, some of the engineers that've been working with you before, just to do inspection, they were charging more than for everything that I've done so far. So, like I said, and I don't have to pay for a building. I don't have travel expense, I don't have a hotel, so all that savings pass on to you. But anyway, what I want to do with that is I'm going to look at get like some other plans that I've got here. Sylvia, the one that's a combination, I think it's towards the bottom. It's MP 150 something. I don't know if you can right on the drawing, the extra drawings. It's not part of the PowerPoint. If you can pull that while I'm talking.
150.
No, it's 152 or something. If you can identify it, one about the combination about that's another PNC connected about the utilities there.
Combined utilities?
Yes, that one. But anyway, see, that's what I have found out the utilities that are there. And this morning, like I was still doing measuring, it's still getting more information. Well, the ball fields, I want to get the similar information, see where all the utilities are, where the panels fed from, and everything.
Right.
And of course, all that information I'm providing to you. You know, y'all got that information now. You know.
But, and I can't stress enough, this is just one example of what doesn't exist that we have to recreate every single time we go do something. I know we get criticized. You didn't do it fast enough. You didn't. You're right.
We just want to do it right.
I could have done it, and we could have laid a new line and never worried about anything else that was out there. That wouldn't have been the right thing to do.
Yeah, they just added a transformer to that's not on there, so right. I went and measured that this morning. I'm going to add, and I'm going to add it to that plan, and you're going to have that, But when I do that with the ball fields also, then I want to see get estimates to feel about fixing up those panels and make sure they'll have latches and maybe get them a bunch of locks, so you can lock them up so the kids cannot be opening them.
Right.
So anyway, we spent a lot of time on this, but you can see at least the kind of work that I'm doing for you. I'm giving you all the drawings. I'm doing the specification. Like I said, there's a 50-page specification.
Right.
So all these are going to things going to be called for. It's not just what am I going to get? Any questions?
As far as the skate park, is that the only place it will fit right now?
No, it can fit in a lot of places. Like I said, you want to get that one, the zero, the first sheet. Okay, yeah. See, when we were looking at the first drawing that I gave to Silva, I had it like south of the swimming pool, but there's not very good parking there, and to get to the restrooms, so they have to go around into the swimming pool area. They have to walk around toward the front and come around the building, and so we thought that might not be good. So we're looking around. Of course, like Silvio said, in the shrimpery, that they've already got that designated parking, for all the people there. So we didn't want to go there. So this area was not in use, and it's fairly small. And we can put 2 lights on there, and there's a AEP light at the end of the parking lot. So it's going to be very easy to just add a couple conduits, and they can put the lights on there, and that's it. That's all we need, because the restrooms are close by. Water. We got that issue about the possible game with a foul ball, but I think that we put some netting, that they take care of. Remember one thing I was going to say. One of the things that I did first when I started with this is I went to, like we were talking about I went to Portland, and I found out that Portland is very pretty next to the highway, but you go to the ball fields over there in the back, and guess what? They look like these ball fields over here, So they're not taking care of them as well either, So that's again, coming from my background, I preach maintenance. Take care of what you got.
Right.
So yes, if there's to be some netting there, that's going to be a maintenance issue. I don't see it as a big thing and as a constant thing, and I don't know that the whole thing would have to be covered. Maybe just have over 2 walls, possibly. I don't know if we do find a star that hits the ball over there, then maybe that's the name for the pavilion. Who knows? But yes, to answer your question, there's all sorts of possibilities.
I had a lady call me Friday. She said we hit a skateboarder. If it was all right now. Because I was up there with Philip when the wind was blowing real hard. I can understand that argument, but I can also understand eventually balls do land.
But no, it could be put at a different place. You're always going to have pros and cons on everything. I don't care what it is. You're going to have pros and cons.
Well, the spot where it is now, is that the most convenient spot, the best place you feel to be?
Yes, and again, that's the only thing about the foul ball, you know. But again, I think that we can deal with that fairly easily. Either put it in the fencing on the baseball field itself, or on the skate rink.
I had someone even mention to me as far as for the dog park, when you locate the dog park, you have to have trees around it. Okay, I'm just telling you. I mean, that's where it is. We're not going to please everyone, but
If you don't want to be criticized, if you don't want to be critiqued, you do nothing and say nothing.
You've been seeing in the news about the gorilla and the little kid. Which one did you want to save? You know.
I told
Depends
this
who you
individual.
ask.
I told this individual, you need to be at our meetings and voice your opinion. So yeah, there's always going to be one way or
Yeah, but I think that we can deal with it, because if we don't deal with it, the mayor, someone's going to come up and they're really going to throw the bat at us, you know, for not dealing with the issue. So we got to deal with it. Either we need to move it, or we put a net on the ball field, or we put a net on the skate park. So we got three options there.
You know, one of the concerns that was brought to me by one of the parents from the Little League was the entrance into that field. In case an ambulance needs to get in there, we would have to relocate the.
We knew we were going to have to relocate the gate.
Yes, and that I did mention to Celia. One of the first things I said, Celia, if we put it here, we're going to have to move this gate, you know, and it's on there. So yes, but we could put it right here on the corner. And Sylvia said she had people that can do that, and of course you got that open road to get to it, you know. And there's a little open space right there, so later, you know, it needs to expand, you know, you could expand some more. Who was talking about possibly getting donors that you could add to that and make it a more elaborate skate park, you know?
I think Vicky was saying about Valley Bank or Bank of America or somebody, right?
Yeah.
You're putting words in my mouth. I didn't say anything.
So it could expand, you know, where it is right there.
Where you have it drawn right here, there's room for expansion?
Yeah, because the
parallel to the gate.
Where you see
Okay.
the DP, the SP rather.
Parallel to the gate.
That's open right there. There's a palm tree right by there, you know, which could be relocated, you know.
To the dog park.
Yeah, on the dog park,
I was even asked if we were going to net the dog park because we could possibly hit the dogs with the foul ball as well.
I don't even want to go there.
No.
Hey, my dog can catch. You'd be all right with putting him out there.
Yeah, on the dog park, they had it to where actually it was gonna eat up part of the ball field there, but I didn't think you'd want to give up a ball field, you know, so the way that I laid it out, you know, you don't have to give up any ball fields, and it's on the other side of the walk there, it's against the water there, and so it's pretty much out of the way, and there's parking close by.
I think, you know, if you left it where it is, you would have to net it. That's one of my
That
has
sounds like
to.
the simplest solution.
I mean, because that's just an accident waiting to happen. Yeah, maintenance too.
Yeah, the wind in the spring out there is incredible. Those of us that have spent countless hours out there. So yeah, the maintenance on the, it's gonna be a big deal, but.
Just like what they have right now with over the different fields in the area where the stands are at. They have
The netting would have to be some kind of, the netting's not going to be metal. The netting's going to be some sort of
You could
composite
probably,
material.
Well, you could probably get the same material that the driving ranges use. You'd have to.
I was gonna say, Carrie, I'm not gonna say I'm a golf pro, but I have been out on the golf course, so I know about winds. They do have an effect on things.
So the final bids and stuff, have we bid out the pavilion yet or not?
No.
Something else coming?
The only thing that, and this is, I think they bid out the concrete work because they didn't want to put those pallets down, you know, for the shrimpery. So And I think, well, since we're getting some concrete here, let's bid out the other concrete. But since the pavilion is so big, I mean, of course, that's hard to tag that on. So no, that's not anywhere. The way, I think the fiscal year ends August, September. The way I see it, you probably may not be able to get that until that next fiscal year. Now, what we are trying to see is about this electrical. You know, if everybody's okay with that electrical, is to get that electrical. And that's not going to be for Shrimpery either, obviously.
Bid also, right?
But again,
That's a bid, yes.
For the next Shrimpery, but yeah, they already go out for bids. And like I said, I've addressed the specifications and all that, so you know who can bid on it and all that stuff. We will have to get a 3-phase transformer in there. The way I'm looking at it right now, might be able to do the single that, but I doubt it. But with a 3-phase, you got plenty of power there, and if you want to do some things in the future there, you know, they work. You know, you've got it there. You know.
It'd leave us room to grow. Sure.
That would leave us the opportunity for the AP easement, correct, Sylvia?
Correct.
Won't interfere in any of that.
That's also a consideration. Shrimpery Grounds is our AEP assembly area.
All right, any other questions for Eli?
No. Thank you, Eli.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Will be the Fair Council, we still 7G.
I'm making a motion, we approve the master plan for the community park.
With the fencing around the.
Yeah, with the fencing and the netting and all the good stuff.
Second the motion.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. This brings us to item 7H, consider an act on request of Rents Pass Youth for a sponsorship donation for the youth summer camp program.
Rosemary, will you be doing this item? Oh. We had a request for AP for Youth to provide a either a scholarship for a child and or children to camp. I believe the request was for $700.
Whatever you can sponsor, I'm sure that's what she's asking for. One child, 2 children, 3 children, half the child's tuition. Usually, sometimes when we run out of funds, they'll ask for like half of the tuition, and then the parents will try to come up with the rest of the tuition.
How many kids and how many dollars are we looking
I
at?
think they have, and I'm not really in the administration part of it, but I think we have about 260 kids, and we typically give out full scholarships to about 30, and so they'll go out and seek requests for businesses to sponsor a child in need, and we usually typically get all of them in. We almost never have to turn them away, and so that's probably what we're trying to do right now. It's not turning them away.
Just as an FYI to the council, the federal drug fund for the police department funds $5,000 of this already. Public safety days. Eric just made me aware of that.
And so we also sponsored the day
swimming
at
pool.
the swimming pool, so we've given enough, I think.
You have, yeah. I'm just here.
She wasn't aware. She was.
I wouldn't be dressed like this if I did.
There's nothing else. What's the action of council in 7H?
Well, I make a motion that we deny the request based on the fact that we've already provided for the AP for Youth.
Second the motion.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
This brings us to item 7I, consider an act on corporate sponsor request for the Rams Pass Independent School District Athletics to purchase an advertising panel on the Jumbotron.
Mayor and Council, this is also a request from APISD. They're requesting either a 3x6 advertising panel, which is $10,000, or almost a 5x6, which is a $25,000 sponsorship. Yes, it is per year.
I think the money could be spent better than this.
I think I would have to agree.
Okay, I make a motion, we deny the sponsorship request for the school district for the Jumbotron.
Second the motion.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. This brings us to item 7J, consider an act on offer purchase tax resale property of suit number A-07-30, 63-T Texas-A, tract number 1, lot 2, block 389, City of Rams Pass, located on Lamont Street.
Mayor and Council, this is up on your screen. It's a little bit deceiving. It's Lamont. It's bounded by Lamont, Whitney, and Lenoir, but Lenoir is a paper street in that particular location. It's right here. Laura Douglas has bid $610. The amount due to all entities is $696.41. What I wanted to make you aware of before we proceed on any of the tax sale properties is we've been inundated here a little bit on tax sale properties, and I don't know, it's because Linebarger has done something that has kind of upped it, but we go through this ebb and flow of having properties for sale and not for sale. What we have consistently told all of the bidders is make it your highest and best bid. What the council needs to understand is this is only the amount due to the entities. This is not any tax liens or paving liens or anything like that. You need to make a specific motion to waive any paving or other liens that may be owed to the city. This is only, what's presented here is only the taxes due to the entities.
Yeah, just because we approve these bids doesn't mean we forgive all their liens.
Correct. And what I have explained to the applicants is you need to make it your best bid, and you need to specifically request any liens be waived. So Laura Douglas's bid is $610. The city of Aransas Pass would receive $204. I'm sorry, we'd receive $108.
And this is just blank land, correct?
It is blank property, yes. It is, at this particular point in time, undevelopable property. There is no road to the property. There is no access. There's no water or any kind of utility. So this is an undeveloped, raw piece of property.
Can we put a ditch through there?
You can see the ditch right of way. Actually, the ditch system is more towards Saunders.
I agree. Might need it. What's the favor of council on 7J?
Well, I make a motion that we approve the bid for this piece of property.
Second.
All first, say aye.
Aye.
This brings us to 7K, consider an act on offer purchase Texas resale property suit number S-05-1097-Texas, lots 13, 14, 15, and 16, block G, NCV 571, Mackey's First Edition, City of Rams Pass, San Patricia County, located on the corner of Arch Street.
This is Arch and East Eberry. This is actually for small lots that are on this corner parcel.
Do they realize it floods there?
They do now.
They do know. The bid was for $18,300. The amount due to all entities is $16,918. The city would receive $4,500.
Well, in answer to your question, he does understand that. He called me about 2 weeks ago, and he understands it's in the flood plain, and told me that there is a paving lien, I think, or some other lien on the property, and he wanted to know if y'all would waive that, and I told him that was up to council. So I don't know what the amount of that is.
And we don't know what the paving lien is at this time, right?
No.
Don't think so.
Why don't we just table this until we get all the details on the liens?
Would he have to?
I don't know. I had to
How
pay
long
my
have these-
table. I had
how
to pay
long
my
have these
paving lien.
Liens been,
My personal opinion, and I have shared it with the council on a number of occasions, is that some of those liens are no longer legal. You have to replace a lien every 10 years. Some of our paving liens also have negative amortization, meaning they've grown as opposed to shrinking. I would recommend to the council that the liens be waived. This is almost a full price offer for the back taxes that's owed. My personal opinion. It is a buyer beware. He is absolutely in a flood zone.
Sure.
So we can make the motion that, accept his bid and waive the, any
Yeah,
liens?
that has to be the specific motion. You
Okay.
must
Well, I'll
waive the
make-
liens.
I'll make a motion that we accept his bid and just forgive any liens that are on the property.
Second.
All first, say aye.
Aye.
This brings us to item 7L, consider an act on offer to purchase tax resale property suit number S-06-1031-Texas, lots 1 and 2, block 441, original town site of the city of Rands Pass, San Patricia County, Texas, located on the corner of 801 South McCampbell.
Same thing. This is on McCampbell and Spencer. This is really is 2 lots side by side. This one does have paved street access on both sides. That is a fully developable lot. The bid is for a penny shy of $2,000. Amount due to all the entities is $10,785. The city would receive $123.64. So.
I would say based on the location. that it's
Yeah, the bidder is
developable.
here if you want to give him an alternate, if you want to give him an alternate bid. We did make it known to all of the bidders, make it your best offer.
I would say because of the fact that it is a developable, you know, the streets that are there, that's there, I would say, you know, the bid be to the amount that's due to all the entities. That would be my,
Yeah, okay. Just reject this bid?
Reject it.
Talking about-
Mr. Ochoa, would you like to come up and discuss and perhaps make an alternate bid? The amount owed to all entities is $10,784.36.
Because I had 2 bids, so I mean, that's the most I could provide for that one.
I'm sorry?
I had 2 bids on the tax resale.
he had
I don't
7 of
know.
them also.
So if the council rejects your bid for 1999.99, you want to pull this bid off the table?
can you tell me again exactly where is that? I know it's on McCampbell, but
It's between McCampbell, Spencer, and Rife.
Will the city liens be waived? I mean, I could go up to a little bit more.
Can you turn that to them, Roy? Can you turn that screen?
I can see it.
Oh.
To the council. So this is South McCampbell, this is Spencer, and then this is Rife. Probably give you a better. Sorry. This is the area around it. It's a fully developable piece of property. I'll show you the frontage to that particular piece of property. This is the area around it.
Is there a structure there already or no?
This.
No, it's a
Oh,
lot.
okay.
Close those two lots.
I could go up more on the bid if they'll tell me that the city liens will be waived. That's why I bid so low, because I didn't know.
Well, and that's the point to the bidders, is we can never guarantee that the council's going to waive any liens. So our instructions to the bidders is consistently, what is your highest and best offer?
Yeah, we don't even know what the liens are, though.
That's a nice piece of property.
How much are the liens?
I don't know on this particular piece of property.
Do you know Mr. Ochoa?
I have a list, but on the liens, but there was a little bit of misunderstanding when I was over there, so I don't know if one of them was waived or not. And one of them went up to, because of the interest of it, it went all the way up to, I want to say like $13,000 on interest.
13,000?
What is the amount of the entire liens on the property?
18,356. But
And what were those liens for?
So they're paving liens and street assessments. So your bid of a little bit under.
2,000.
He's got a street. There's a street assessment of $3,700. There's a weed lot lien of what was originally $800 that has grown to $13,900, and a weed lien of $90 that has grown to $722. These liens are 1987 and 1994, which is my position to the council, that a lot of these liens are not even valid.
Where were the liens?
Yeah, that's 356,000 in liens that are due.
Yeah.
So.
I would say, at least what we owe, because that is a nice piece of property there. At least the 10,000.
Which is less than the liens.
I was gonna say, we can waive the liens, but it has, my motion, my rejection of your bid and what I'm coming back is at least 10,784. I won't approve anything less than that because of the location.
y'all are, it'd help y'all put it back on y'all's tax roll too. It's been there for years.
We're like kind of just giving you a present.
Yeah, understand.
That's just my motion.
I'd second that motion.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Okay, so item 7N is also Mr. Ochoa's.
I oppose. I think it needs to go. Somebody has the interest in having it. I think somebody.
Get it done.
Yeah. Right. Anyway.
Item 7M is also Mr. Ochoa's. The amount of the bid is $16,000. The amount due to all entities is a little shy of $43,900. The amount due to the city of Aransas Pass would be $11,311. The city would receive $3,854.
Where is this
Let me get
property
you the
at?
location. This is South McCampbell and Goodnight. Here's Goodnight. Here's South McCampbell, and Whitney is over here.
Is that a dirt road or?
This is an
Okay.
improved road,
So again, it's just the lots, there's no structures on it?
Let me pull up the correct. Trying to get the address so I can pull it up on Google Earth, which is a little bit better.
Yeah, there's a structure on there. It's an old abandoned house.
An old abandoned house?
Which you can't really see from the trees here. Oh, that corner. So it's at the corner of Goodnight and McCampbell. Let me see if I can pull it up on Google Earth to give you a better picture. Sorry.
2 weeks ago.
Dan, you're not getting an interview. Location around the property.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's.
It's right there on that corner. Yeah, that house.
So you're talking about that house, that particular piece of property right there?
Used to belong to the wolves, right?
Right.
Yeah, we used to call that the haunted house when I was growing up, before the wolves got there.
Okay, so your offer was for 16, you're not doing.
Well, the amount due to us was 11. So I'm good with that.
I'm happy with that one.
I'm sorry that the rest don't get any money.
Well, they don't even get 11.
I know, but still.
He's got a lot of work to do.
Yeah, that house has got a lot of work.
What's the favorite? Any more questions from council? Mr. O'Toole?
I make a motion that we accept this bid for 16,000.
Are there any liens on this property?
Please make the motion without the liens, to waive the liens.
I make a motion that we waive the liens also.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. O'Toole. It's nice to see something happening there.
Oh, yeah. Good luck.
Okay. Let's go bring us to item 8A, consider an act on amending the city code of ordinances, chapter 16, library board. What we got going on here, Sylvia?
It's just a revision to the code to clarify and to define the terms of the library board and appointments. And Paula Stone's here to discuss if you so desire.
Just real quick, I know it's getting late. We originally thought, and by the way, 2 years ago, you reduced our board from 9 to 7, and we thank you for that. It's worked really well. And the other thing was that the council appoints the chairperson, and I am the chairperson. But last fall, we got to looking at it, and we got to thinking, why? Because our own board appoints and our secretary, treasurer, and our vice chair, so we couldn't figure out why. And then in February, when I went over to see Mary to get the paperwork, because my term and 2 other terms came up, right. We realized that there were still references to the 9-member board, and there were like 2 people this time, and over the years, and I'll be perfectly honest, before Sylvia got here, I think that some of the board members served 4 or 5 years without being reappointed by the city council, because we just were pretty lax. But truthfully, we are following the city codes. And so when we started looking at the one issue of, how the chairperson is appointed, we got to reading the rest of the code. And it was decided that there was things that needed to be changed and clarified, because essentially our job is advisory. And so you can see in the little cover letter, which the audience probably doesn't have, but we felt like it needed to be clarified. We needed to find a year in the terms. We feel like that whoever's chair, and by the way, this is only my 2nd year out of the 13 years I've been on the board.
It's up on the screen, Paula.
Oh,
The letter's
yeah,
up on the
thanks.
screen. Mhm.
Anyway, we did take time to look at Ingleside and Portland, and the state library also has an advisory book, and we read through that. We feel like we are following the intent of what the council needs to know. And so we're just asking, to approve it. We think we covered all the areas without changing much. And so unless you have a specific question, I'll be happy to entertain, any explanations or whatever. and I'm not sure, that probably has to be read at least twice, right, or?
No.
On
No,
the
it's just
code
this reading.
approvals, okay, I wasn't sure how that worked, but I'm be happy to explain. If it's crossed out, we want to replace it. If it's in italics, we're adding it. And we did study it and try to make sure everybody, all 7 members, were there at the major discussion that we had in March, or April, I'm not quite sure which one the major discussion happened, but anyway, be happy to answer any questions. I don't think it changes anything or takes away from your duties, because you do have to approve all the appointments.
Right.
So
I don't have an issue with
I don't either. I'm good, Mr. Mayor.
then I would ask for y'all to support the changes.
it. All right. Do I hear a motion for approval of changes as our advisory board suggested?
I make a motion, we approve item 8A.
Second the motion?
All fair say aye.
Aye.
Thanks for staying so late.
This is to 9A, consider an act on awarding bid of the sludge removal and racetracks at the wastewater treatment plant, Dredged Environmental.
This is, Mayor and Council, this is an item that I think we had discussed prior, something that would bid us just a little bit more time before we go through the expense of needing to add an additional clarifier. The last storm event, again, our wastewater treatment plant is at capacity during storm events, so we've got to do something to give us at least some additional capacity because folks need to be able to flush. That's
About half of our capacity is sludge, right?
a good 30% is sludge. Again, no maintenance over last 10 or 15 years. There's a lot of infiltration into the system, through, structures that aren't there anymore, through just breaks. There's a lot of sand and goo. Yes, it is a nice one.
Was this the only bid?
Excuse me,
We have
this
to
was.
untable it.
Yeah, please.
Oh, sorry.
I make a motion that we untable agenda item 9A.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye. So was this the only bid?
If Fernando Arenas, was this the only bid?
This is what they do, right, Fernando?
This is what they do.
Oh, sorry, Miguel. That's all they do, right? Just.
That's probably why. I bet you there's not a lot of companies out there.
I wouldn't want to do that job.
Well, I make a motion that we approve the awarding the bid for the sludge removal.
Second the motion?
All first say aye.
Aye.
Aye. This brings us to item 11, Police A. Eric?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This is just for the citywide auction. I've just been in charge of managing that. There's just over 100 items collectively that we've put together. You should have a list of that. Any items that do not sell at auction will be disposed of, basically. Destroyed, yeah.
God bless you.
Well, I make a motion that we approve for the city to hold a online auction.
Second the motion?
All first say aye.
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 Thank you. The next item has to do with our expired ballistic vests that the officers wear. We have several of those vests that were just taking up space inside the police department. There's a company called Armor of God that actually will take those vests in if they feel that they're, I guess, still good enough to be used. They give them to law enforcement officers that can't otherwise afford them or their agency doesn't provide them. There is a disclaimer that we're not held accountable for that.
Okay.
And I'm just seeking your approval so that we can dispose of those vests that way.
Do I hear a motion for approval of 11B?
I make a motion that we approve agenda item 11B.
I say,
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Council. Mayor, next item has to do with our old TASER electronic control devices. We have 18 of those devices that are either defective or do not pass testing, so we've pulled them from use. They are approximately 8 to 10 to 12 years old.
Oh, wow.
And we've already replaced all our TASER devices. So we're requesting approval to send these back to TASER International for proper disposal.
Is that how you have to do them normally?
Well, because they're electronic, they could contain some harmful
Okay.
things for the environment, so they make sure that they're all handled properly.
well, I make a motion that we approve the chief to dispose of the old non-working tasers.
Second the motion?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
This brings us to item 11D, the harbor.
Mayor and Council, this was in response to the last conversation where there was hours of operation at Harbor Point Park that needed to be discussed. After consultation with the harbor master and the police chief, staff is recommending that the hours of operation be removed. PD can respond to illegal activity as necessary. We do have rounds that occur down in the harbor, so other than trying to enforce an ordinance that's gray at best, we're recommending to remove any hours of operation down at the park.
Sounds good. Is there any questions from council on this? Do I hear a motion for approval for item 11D?
I make a motion that we amend the city code of ordinance for the Harbor Point Park, hours of operation.
I second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Mr. Lawrence, 13A.
Thank you, Mayor. I declare a public hearing open for the purpose of taking up the matter of demolition of properties listed as items 13A 1 through 5. You going to address this? Who is?
Dan.
Yes, sir.
Mayor and council.
Let's do these one at a time if we can. The first property is located at 209B West Guile, described as lots 5 and 6, Conbrown Edition, Eden 111.
This property has one mobile home, one garage building, and a small storage unit. All three structures are missing doors, windows, and the interior walls are completely dilapidated and in such a condition as to be considered a hazard to the community.
Yes, sir.
And you've given all proper notices, I would assume.
I have given all proper notices. We've tried every way possible to contact anyone that had any interest within the property. Everything's been returned back to us. We have not had any response from anyone.
No responses?
No response.
Okay. Okay, let's go to item 2, which is 441 West Magnolia, Lot 1, Block 425.
Hey, this property has two substandard structures located on one piece of property that has one address. Both structures are missing doors, windows, interior walls, and ceiling coverings are damaged or missing. Both structures are open, dilapidated, in such condition as to be considered a nuisance and dangerous to the community.
Any responses?
We have not had any responses returned on those proper mailings have been sent out to everyone that is on the title.
Okay. All right. Number 3 is 1029 West Yoakum, being Lot 1, Block 251.
This property has a dilapidated garage on it, and we took action on it. We gave notifications. At the last minute, the owner of the property came in, took out demolition permits, and are in the process of doing demolition on it. So we'll handle that property through the building permit process.
Okay, so we can pull that one.
We can pull that one
Okay. And item 4 is 1166 South McCampbell, Outlot 16, part of Track 2.
We have 35 more of them you'll see in the next couple of months.
1166 South McCampbell. This property has a substandard house structure in need of a lot of repair. The building structure at the back of the house, if you look at it from the front of the house, it doesn't appear to be so bad. If you look at the back of the house, portion of the back is been taken out. It used to be a sliding glass door, and the wood around it has deteriorated, and the back portion is starting to collapse in on itself. The interior is also dilapidated and missing framing members and sheetrock, and it's open and a nuisance to the community.
Any responses?
We have not had any responses from anyone.
Didn't the property owner for this particular, is this Guile?
Yes.
This is West Guile?
Yes.
No, that's McCampbell.
Oh, sorry.
McCampbell. Sorry, that's McCampbell.
Off of Dewberry, is that correct?
I jumped ahead of myself. That particular owner,
Item 5 is West Guile, Lot 21, Block 213. Item 5, West Guile, Lot 21, Block 213.
Okay. This lot, the property has one standard structure that is missing the doors, windows, interior walls, including ceiling covering. The owner of the property has provided voluntary consent for demolition, and we will demolish this property through the city voluntary demolition process.
Okay. So items 1, 2, 4, and 5 are the properties that the council needs to take action on.
Yes.
Okay. Anything further?
No, not at this time.
Anyone in the audience present that has any interest in any of these properties? Members of the council have any questions?
It's about time.
If not, I declare the public hearing closed, and I would recommend the council approve demolition of items 1, 2, 4, and 5, and no action on item 3.
Thank you, sir. Do I hear a motion?
I make a motion that we authorize the demolition of agenda item 1, 2, 4, and 5.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. This is going to bring us down to item 16, our second session. The city council may recess.
no, sir.
Oh,
We're at 15.
I was ready to go.
I was thinking, man.
And
15A.
actually, before we, Eric's got police and fire department stats, but what's not listed here is the financial update that Donna's prepared to give as well.
Oh, okay.
So, go ahead, Eric.
Thank you, Council. I'll try to be quick with this. You have the calls right there and everything. I'm just going to go over some of the highlights for April. This is April. We are a little bit late because of last meeting. Recognition there. We had one of our officers get off training. She's now on her own, and she's doing well. We had a fight call where a subject was charged with endangering children because they were brought into the fight. Drug arrests for the month. We did a distracted driving deal that we participated in the state, and we had 33 citations issued in regards to that. Still checking up on our sex offenders and the sort, going into investigations. Lawrence Mireles for the murder of Jenna Hernandez lost his second appeal. God bless him. We had Rosa Linda Ganceras, who was involved with the babysitter rapist case, Daniel Billman, if you recall. She actually was videotaping Daniel Billman raping the child. She was recently indicted federally as well. We're moving forward on that case. Gilbert Zamora, that case, if you remember, on the murder, it's a 10-year-old case. We have represented that to the San Patricio County DA, and we're hopeful that we'll see an indictment soon. On training, we had about 416 hours of police officer training that was provided for the month of April. That does not include the license to carry training that we put on for the community. Emergency management, there's constantly been a lot of activity with that. In fact, this last flood event, I think that our emergency management crew and board responded very, very well in that situation, and we realized the progress in being more organized and trained.
Eric, on that, will we get a full outline of what we did, pros and cons?
Yes, it'll be in your report.
Okay. We have done that. We've actually had a meeting as well where we've discussed a lot of that. We went over the calls. I think we had, I can't remember, 68 or 80 something events reported to us during the first several hours of that deal. But anyways, that's pretty much the highlights for stats in April. Next council meeting, we'll come to you with stats from May. Fire department.
Mayor, Council, in front of you, you have a packet for, mine's a little bit of a hybrid. It's May, but also it's reporting from when we started the new software that you approved a couple months back. Yes, we're doing, so it started like April the 20th. If you look at pages, the first two pages, you'll see that we responded to 231 calls for service this year, 77 during that date range. That's a significant increase of about 53.46% over what we did last year. Not to be alarmed by those numbers, we're now doing first responding. We're going to high acuity medical calls where we didn't have those in last year's reports. So our call volume could, have projections of going as high as 554 this year. If you look at page 3, it highlights the business occupancy pre-plans and fire inspections. Restructured the inspection bureau completely. And we've made lots of progress in what we used to do, and I'm actually trying to abide by what the city ordinance says, that every business is going to have a annual fire inspection, and we're structuring that. So when we look at occupancies, and I talk about entering pre-plans, one is capturing that information. So I was able to use some information from the chamber of who we have in the city, and then we're just kind of grabbing it on our own. We've got 172 of those premises. This is a lot of data entry for this, so it's 172 of those. In actual fire inspections, I got one guy every third day trying to work on them best he can with the other duties. He's been able to get 28 of those inspections done.
That's important for the council to understand, because some of you may get calls about, I've never had a fire inspection before.
Me. I'm on here.
There you go.
Right. Total number of formal
Thank
training.
you, council member, for abiding by the ordinance.
Absolutely. Total number of formal training hours is since my arrival, so since in January, has been 893. And by formal, it's something that's yielded a certification or been done by a third party. Total in-house training is stuff that we just did amongst ourselves, officer level, or myself teaching that, has been 400 plus. A lot of that is just that we're trying to get consistent with professional standards, compliance issues. Make sure that so if we get any kind of inspectors come in here, right, that we meet those guidelines. Our big project right now we have going on is we're hydrant testing all of them throughout the city. So again, we're having to capture information, where they're located, getting the make, the model, the year, capturing tons and tons of information, and then we actually do the flow test, and that's a pretty lengthy process. It takes about 45 minutes per hydrant. I've been able to capture 53, and this only started about a week into what you see into this right here. So I've been able to capture 53. I got flow testing in 43. And why that's important is because I'm trying to get ready for a appeal that we have for ISO. That's project number 1, and we're testing between 30 and 50 hydrants a week right now. So it's a mission number 1. And then one of the little, I just wanted to include it with something I was really excited about. If you look on that final page, it's got a heat map just showing the index of where we're making these calls at. You'll see that heat map shows the saturation, and you'll see where a lot of those calls were where the flooding was worst at. You'll see the arch, you'll see some at the 35-1069 intersection. So it's kind of neat to kind of trace it back. There was some stuff I couldn't figure out why we were making so many calls in certain locations. And I look, what's a nursing home that we make? It's you get those high acuity CPR type calls. But it all makes sense, and and we're looking at and I evaluate where my stations are and where my guys are staffed, and and it's all in line with where it should be.
I don't know, Saturday night, can we get a Halo flight or something in town, or DPS chopper?
The hospital brings stuff in and out, a lot of times without us even knowing. Okay. So if they have like a myocardial infarction or something like that needs to be transferred to a higher level hospital, okay, It's not always that they notify us.
I was just curious, got heard from the house. First
Yeah,
thing I was thinking was seeing.
we didn't make a response for Halo for any kind of landing helicopter. So if they come into that helipad, it really usually doesn't involve us.
Okay.
If they're landing them, say, for a motor vehicle accident with an extrication, that's going to obviously take us to have a landing zone.
I got you.
Any questions about the report?
Looks good.
All right. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
It's done.
Yeah, we're gonna go to the.
Okay. I'm going to go pretty quickly because it has been a long evening. What you have in front of you on the legal size page is our consolidated financial summary for the year so far ending May 31st. As you know, we're 2/3 of the way through our fiscal year, so our goal is to be at about 67%. In terms of that, I'm just going to kind of hit the highlights. You'll see some bumps in different places. We've done some corrections after meeting with Brenda and doing the audit, shifting some things from one line to the other. So there are some negatives in the income that don't really look like they should be there, but those are basically corrections. The things of real significance are the fact that our property tax collections are up. We are at 120% of our budget on our collections, which is just really excellent. Overall, our income for the general fund is at 67.36%. It's exactly where we anticipate it being at this time of year, so that's really good. Expenses for the general fund are very much in line. Overall, they're at about 70%. That's not unexpected. We were working on some big projects. We had some overtime for the flooding, things like that. So that's really, really good. I don't think there's anything really significant else on the general fund. If you flip to the back page, the first section is the debt service fund. We made some payments in May. They're not very large. Those were equipment payments for our asphalt zipper and our paver. That was at $87,000. Again, that'll reflect the fact that we're doing very well on our property tax collections as well, because part of it goes into that fund. Water and sewer fund is right on track. Their expenses are a little high. Some of that's out of our control, but a lot of maintenance has been done, things like that, so I don't think that's unusual. The harbor fund, everything looks really good. We had a really big bump in expenses in March. There was a really big engineering bill, and I haven't had a chance to talk to Sylvia. That may have actually been something that should have gone to bond. Okay, so we'll need to move that to a bond expense, because I knew that.
And I'm glad you brought that up because I had a conversation with another council member, with Carrie, today on, we have a lot of small businesses trying to occupy at the harbor, and we are still doing small short-term leases unless you have a master plan or something that fits in. But, at $12 a linear foot, the revenues for the harbor are steadily climbing. People are willing to pay, and we're still cheaper than anywhere around us. So the harbor fund should get healthier and healthier as the year progresses. I know he's got 2 potential clients right now who want short-term temporary space.
The aquatic center finally got fully open in May, so you'll see a nice jump in our income. Of course, it still loses money, and it will lose money, but hopefully it won't bleed quite as bad. Finally, the Civic Center is doing well, although it does have a loss. So far, it's only $128,000 for the year. Say $128,000, but their anticipated loss is a little over $200,000, and it looks like they'll probably come in under that. So that's very encouraging. And on the bottom line, I just want to give you a summary of the kind of bond projects we've been working on and how that money is being spent in terms of the general fund, water and sewer fund, and the harbor. So you can see that so far we've spent $2.6 million, almost $2.7 million this year of bond money. The other pages you have are the Public Funds Investment Act report. It just gives you a summary of where our money is in terms of the different accounts and what kind of interest it's earning. Unfortunately, interest rates are sad, so we're not earning a lot of interest. But overall, year to date, we have earned $24,000. So it's not totally, it's not the 10% like the old days, but it is. Are there any questions about any of this?
Thank you, Donna.
Thank you.
This is going to move to item 16, executive session. City Council will recess the executive session to discuss the following items pursuant to Chapter 551 of our Texas Government Code. So item A, Section 551.071, consultation with the city attorney over a city contract. We will be back, correct? We're good.
Actually, you don't even need to have the session.
Because we already.
It was going to be to discuss whether or not we stop the work at Community Park, but now that you voted on location
Putting fencing
and those kinds of things, then the work can continue, so we don't have to cancel the contract.
that moves to item 17, adjournment of the meeting.
I make a motion, we adjourn.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Hello, Mr. Riggy. How you doing?
Well, that's not ready because it hasn't been approved in the budget.
Still learning the ropes.
Yeah, let me open up. How are you? I'm all right. How's it going? I'm hanging in. I just closed the stupid thing because it had like Facebook notifications popping up. I'm like, why is Facebook on here? Yes.
Yeah, probably good. Let's see.
Alrighty.
Appreciate you coming out.
Yes.
Anything you call me?
I've only heard extreme positive.